that by having to be there to discipline these kids on a Saturday, he has to be there as well. And he doesn't appear to have a lot to do at school that day either. It's a bad day for him.
Paul Gleason's a good actor, and he could play that role without turning it into a caricature, which I think is crucial to the success of that movie. You know, even though we all watched it identifying with the kids, on some level you have to believe that the adults are real, and he's real. You know that there are people like that, and you know that they have a heart somewhere, or you can be sympathetic to them, but you know, you don't want to see them caricatured.
The adult characters are amazingly set up for the kids to bounce from and off of. And in Paul Gleason was the perfect character. My God, he's holding court. And then you could see the only authority this guy had was at school over these kids. And Judd was punching at it, kicking at it.
Paul was a great guy to have as like an adversary. He was great. And he brought so much to that as well, that looking at himself in the glass, the reflection of the fire extinguisher thing, like, hey, haga-naga, as he's walking on, it's like, he's so cocky.
Haga-naga! Right.
Paul Gleason didn't have to ever try to be funny. He just was. I don't know who came up with that weird contraption on his desk. He's spinning something at some point. He was great.
Out!
Thinking of trying out for a scholarship.
Give me the ball, Bender.
He wants the ball, and what am I going to do? It's like I'm going to go, like, because I want to, and every take I do it slightly different. And so when I rolled it to him, he booted that ball at me. I was like, yay! But I knew he was going to do that too, and kind of hoped that he's not going to hit you, but you have to take it if he does.
Let's go.
Hey, keep your fucking hands off me!
When he's having that standoff with Judd Nelson, you feel this sympathy for both of them. You know, like, you're supposed to feel, oh, the principal, he's just this jerk. But you just feel like, what do you do with essentially a fully grown man who doesn't want to be in high school and is giving you this sort of interminable shit about everything? There's the threat of violence. They're gonna, like, throw down. That freaked me out.
And I'm gonna kick the living shit out of you, man. I'm gonna knock your dick in the dirt.
I really thought he was going to whack me, and I would have taken it. I had to, you know? And so I kind of flinch, and he doesn't do anything, and he goes, I knew it. You're a gutless turd. I'm like, ah, damn.
I mean, there's real anger in Paul's character that's palpable.
When Kapelos catches Paul reading the files, and he goes like, oh, Dick, I don't know. And he's like, well, no, I don't think we have to say anything about this. You know, it's like that great thing. It's like, so he looks like a kid then, too.
And after about 2-3 takes, John came up to me and says, cut him off. Ask him for $50. And the look on his face was pretty real, because we yelled cut, and he started bearing down on me, going, why are you interrupting me, and what's going on? And it was difficult for a few moments after that, because he didn't expect that.
What? $50.
John asked me about casting, and he brought up Paul Gleason's name, and we'd both seen him in Trading Places. And there was this hilarious scene which he called to mind, which made us both laugh, where this old lady approaches him, and he's on the payphone, and she wanted to use the payphone. And he just had this great kind of stern look that he could always, like, summon. And the lady comes up to the payphone, and he looks at her, and he goes, fuck off. And it's just, like, one of the funniest things ever.
Unbelievable. It's like, oh, what's my job? I was like, oh, that's excellent, you know. Clarence Beeks, who ends up in that monkey suit. Oh, God.
But Paul was a great guy. I mean, Paul is a guy that became a friend of mine, you know, and I'd hang out with Paul and meet him for lunch, and, you know, and he was like an uncle or a dad, you know. He was always that go-to guy, a really known and loved character actor. He was very much a part of the process, encouraging of all of us as young actors, and really hip and right there. God rest his soul, he was a good guy.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
What we found out is that each one of us is a brain, and an athlete,
and a basket case, a princess,
and a criminal. Does that answer your question?
I'll never forget the first time I saw Breakfast Club with a big audience, and it was in the west side of Chicago, and the audience was kinetic, electric, with sort of a response. Kids would say a line on screen, and kids in the audience would respond. And there was this sort of, you know, prayer group meeting to it that I think people recreate in their own home movie environments now when they see those movies.
Around 10 years after Breakfast Club came out, I felt like, why was this movie never going to go away? I mean, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to, you know, grow up as an actress, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm very comfortable with where I am, and I like it. I like it that I have a daughter who's never seen a movie I've been in, but I think she's going to like this one when she sees it. I like that it isn't dated and it's still around. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime part. People don't get those kind of parts very often. So I feel like actually it's this huge gift, that the whole movie. But at this point, I can't believe that I was in a movie that has had that kind of, made that kind of stamp or had that kind of effect on so many people. It's crazy.
You know, I've had a lot of time to think about the value and the sort of impact that film had, and I'm honored by that and blown away to be a part of it. And I think that really my feeling about why the Breakfast Club works is that it's a sort of deconstruction of stereotypes. It allows us to see everybody where we think they are, and then by the end, you know, if there is a moral or a fable to it, that we're all more alike than we thought, you know. And I think that that's powerful.
Okay, fine, but that doesn't make it any less bizarre.
What's bizarre? I mean, we're all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
And it was strange when it came out that I would get letters from all over the world. Like I didn't realize that the high school experience, not specifically, but in a general sense, it's similar to people in Scandinavia, based on their letters, or people in Eastern Europe. It was like, what? What? Because we think it's going to be so much different. It's not.
These are characters that still exist. You know, they're not characters that only existed in 1984. These are the kind of people that are still in high school.
So you just stripped to the things that you know. Shopping, nail polish, your father's BMW, and your poor, rich, drunk mother in the Caribbean. Shut up! And as far as being concerned about what's going to happen when you and I walk down the hallways of school, you can forget it, because it's never going to happen. Just bury your head in the sand and wait for your fucking prom.
I hate you.
Yeah? Good.
What was interesting about the Breakfast Club, what was new about the Breakfast Club, was the fact that it took teenagers' concerns seriously. It was intense. It did not condescend to its audience. It was a serious film about young people's emotions, and that was what made it punk rock.
The whole thing of John Hughes and his movies and how they had become the standard for youth movies and teen movies, and we had this big love-hate with them because we love the movies. We talked about it when we made Heathers, you know. What do you think about those John Hughes movies? Oh, well, they're really good. They're really funny. What's your favorite? I like 16 Candles. I like Breakfast Club, whatever it is. And in a lot of ways, Heathers was kind of an extension and in many ways an homage to what John was doing.
Just the fact that the term teen movie even exists is kind of insulting. Nobody says adult movie. You know, these are just films that happen to have teenage protagonists. And there's so much opportunity for storytelling and character development. You can tell just about any story. You're just seeing it through the lens of adolescence.
A lot of people could sort of look down their nose and go, oh, teen movie, but I mean, that encompasses a lot of different kinds of movies. I mean, if you think Clockwork Orange, he didn't go to school because he had a pain in the Gulliver. Well, then that means this is a teen movie. Now, would you call Clockwork Orange a teen movie?
Just because you've only been alive for 15 years doesn't mean you're any less anything except old. That's all it means. Doesn't mean you're less experienced necessarily. It doesn't mean you're less intelligent. It doesn't mean you're less sensitive. It doesn't mean you're taking things less seriously. It's like these are for younger human beings. Meaning, don't, because they're only 10, start thinking that they don't know what you're talking about. Because they do. Don't leave people out in the cold. Don't. And don't talk down to people. Don't. It never works out.
Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
The Brat Pack was weird. It was like an explosion. It just happened. All of a sudden, there were all these young actors who nobody had heard of, and within a year they were famous. That was unique. I don't really think there was another time like that.
Brat Pack sort of came out of an Entertainment Tonight culture that needed to sort of lump actors and performances and kinds of people together.
In 1985, I was planning to write an article for New York Magazine about Emilio Estevez, who at the time was about to star in St. Elmo's Fire and to make his own film.
It was supposed to be an article on Emilio only. So the journalist had asked for him to get together some of the kids, you know, from Breakfast Club, and St. Elmo's was coming out.
So what New York Magazine did was they assigned this reporter to do an interview with all these hot young actors that were becoming the young male celebrities of that era, called them all to dinner, and it was Rob and Judd and Emilio and all these guys.
So I went out to Los Angeles and we hit it off and ended up spending some time together. He introduced me to a lot of his friends who were also actors.
It was staged. That evening was staged, and he had asked me, and I just said, I don't want to go, you know. It was like they were hanging out in a bar. You know, I don't drink, so I wasn't going to go.
Over the course of the week, various aspects of their behavior started to strike me as bratty. They would go to movie theaters and say, I'd like to get in free, please, because I'm famous. They would go out to a restaurant and get the center table and try to attract as much attention as possible. And I just thought it was funny. I mean, here were these young, successful actors who were all doing well, but they couldn't help themselves. They just wanted to be thought of in a certain way, and somehow I made this odd connection in my mind to the Rat Pack from the 50s. And wrote a piece about the group of them instead of writing just about Emilio Estevez.
The guy drew a lot of conclusions that, you know, weren't true, and just painted us with such a broad stroke. They just torched us. That guy torched us. And then it was so easy for other people to pick up on it, and it's real creative, like Rat Pack, Rat Pack. It just portrayed us as, like, you know, bad people, whereas we weren't. And it was like, but we had fun, and that, of course, is, I guess, not allowed.
It was basically, it seemed like kind of a ploy to get them all talking about their exploits. And then the title of the article just became the Brat Pack, you know, sort of alluding to the Rat Pack. So I think it was really just a term that got coined from this cover story article.
New York Magazine put it on the cover with the words, Hollywood's Brat Pack, and it went on from there. I included in it basically anybody who was roughly between the ages of, say, 21 and 30 and was successful and working in Hollywood. And it was a convenient, fun title. I didn't at the time have any way of knowing that it would latch onto them forever.
As soon as they could, they would label us something, and then you're no longer actors. Then you're personalities. Then, you know, it's all about your temperament. Because it seems that most of the actors I've worked with from my generation were incredibly professional. They're on time, they know their lines, they hit their marks, treat everyone nicely. It's like, how's that a group of, like, you know, hellions? Rascallions.
It was unreal is what it was. And so what I noticed after it came out was more that there was this really uncomfortable feeling around everybody. And by then, St. Elmo's Fire had come out, so that included everybody. It was sort of this thing about the guys were the ones who would go out and hang out a lot, and suddenly were being really careful about it, and they didn't want to. It was feeling more than anything else, you know.
It wasn't really in good faith or good spirit, I think, to kind of misconstrue and edit or re-edit people's words to make them all look like, you know, a bunch of pains in the asses.
These guys were just exploding and becoming known as the Brat Pack, and I think that was a mixed blessing. Yeah, you can have a moniker attached to you. It can be something that you can identify with, but it can also be something that sort of cages you in.
And it was used at the time as a derogatory phrase. By calling them the Brat Pack, you were saying they weren't genuine. But then it stuck as sort of, you know, the negativity went away and it became just a description for this group of actors.
I think there was definitely something very special about the Brat Pack. They had an everyday relatability to the audience members who watched their movies. Some may have been older at the time the movies were filmed than others, but once they were on screen, they just were like the people you saw in high school versus the people who were kind of the teen idols before them. They seemed like more of a product of the movie companies. But I think the Brat Pack really definitely had that relatability with everybody.
I mean, these days, somebody's on American Idol and you know, within a year or two, they're a movie star. But these were kids who were good actors who then became famous. And, you know, the whole idea of showing your acting talent precedes your celebrity or not, it's a funny thing in the world today.
People were always asking that when it first came out, well, what do you think's going to happen on Monday? Like, I don't know. I'd like to see how Allison comes in to school on Monday. I think I'll support Allison either way. Whatever she does, that's how I'm going to play it.